My son was 6 at the time of the first lockdown in March 2020, and the impact was very severe. He has some special needs, and so his brain could not comprehend why his therapy support relationships had been suddenly removed. There was absolutely no remote learning that took place during that time. It was just basically trying to stay alive.
On December 31st, 2021, the Manitoba Teachers Union President, James Bedford, put out a news release asking that the Manitoba government move schools to Code Red, thus forcing students into remote learning once again. Their Instagram account was immediately inundated with hundreds of parents, teachers, and students asking for schools to stay open. You got it wrong, MTS. Every teacher I know wants in-person teaching in January, including myself. The only thing remote learning did was put our students 6 months behind. Please don't make this mandatory. Suicide rates have gone up since remote learning has been a thing. I almost lost somebody 4 times because of it. Please don't do this to our students. Someone needs to start listening to these kids before it's too late. Despite the nearly unanimous cries to keep students in school, Premier Stephenson and Minister of Education Cliff Cullen announced on January 4th that students would move to remote learning from January 10th to January 17th. Perhaps more concerning than the announcement itself was the justification. This time, there was no statement about the science. This time, students, parents, and teachers were told that the reason schools would be closed is because stakeholders within the education system had asked for this.
So really the reason, and I'll let Minister Cullen answer and elaborate on this, is that stakeholders within the education system have asked for this.
But who are the stakeholders? In July 2021, the organization Dignity of Risk submitted a Freedom of Information request regarding Manitoba's education COVID planning meeting minutes. As you can see, the meeting minutes came back heavily redacted. Large portions of each meeting were dedicated to the stakeholder update. However, not a single record exists within the weekly meeting minutes obtained from April 3rd, 2020 to June 9th, 2021, stating who the stakeholders are. Not one person, business, or corporation is named. All discussion notes were removed. All information in the column for information, decision, action has been removed. The stakeholders, those who have decided on remote learning for K-12 children, remain shrouded in secrecy. On the heels of the Manitoba government announcing the move to remote learning, the Manitoba Teachers Society posted another Instagram story reading, Manitoba schools go remote, January 10th to 17th. This time, the overwhelming response was from students. The message was clear. Their mental health depends on their ability to attend school in person. Why does nobody understand there is more death from youth in lockdown than there are from death from COVID? Teens are overdosing and committing suicide because of feeling alone and locked up. Yep, gonna end my life. Sayonara, guys. I'd rather die. And what was MTS's response? They deleted the 300 plus comments and posted phone numbers for the suicide hotlines. This cold, unfeeling erasing of kids' cries for help was met with disgust. And again, the people responded. Listen to the children. How absolutely shameful, deleting the very voices of your own students, their cries for help, their thoughts and feelings on their future and lives matter. Not once on your feed during this pandemic did you post a helpline number. All of a sudden, to decide that is important now, you have made a joke now, asking for remote learning, deleting kids' comments about suicide and going along with a narrative that is clearly not working. Do your jobs and keep the kids in school. That's what they want. They are pleading with you. On January 7th, 2022, the Canadian Pediatric Society responded directly to Premier Stephenson and Minister Cullen. In their letter, they state, online learning is harmful. Social isolation and prolonged in-person school closures have precipitated increases in unhealthy behaviors, such as excessive screen time, reduced physical activity, and substance use. They go on to say that In our hospitals and clinics, we see the results: increased depression and anxiety, suicidality, eating disorders, learning losses, and delayed development. The deteriorating health and well-being of our children and youth is also a public health emergency. They end the letter by stating, in-person learning is one of the only near universal measures available to help children and youth. It is imperative for governments to avoid school closures.
I'm sad because I can't see my teacher and friends.
As an EA, I continue to see the ongoing education gap for students who are the most vulnerable, who are falling further and further behind every single time we go back to online learning.
My 7-year-old son has not been able to build meaningful relationships in his classroom.
He also stopped talking for about a month and a half, completely stopped talking, and when he began to speak again, he developed such a strong stutter that he often could not even get his words out. He would just hang his head and say, "Mom, I can't. It's just too hard." There was no schooling that got done during that time, and the impact of that set his next 2 years on a trajectory to, at this point in time, he went from, prior to the first lockdown, he was doing the best in school I couldn't have even dreamed he would do. And now, in this moment, January 2022, he has regressed 2 years and has lost all support that he had established 2 years ago at the beginning of this mess.
And again, just a reminder that this is about the education stakeholders asking for an extension.
The Public Schools Act states that a strong public school system is a fundamental element of a democratic society, and the purpose of the public school system is to serve the best educational interests of the student. Today we are asking you to do your job. Keep the kids in school. This is what parents, teachers, and kids want. This is in the best interest of the children. The Public Schools Act also states that parents have a right and a responsibility to be knowledgeable about and participate in the education of their children. Today, we are also asking you to be transparent. Who are the stakeholders? Why have you given them power to decide whether or not kids have access to in-person learning? What was discussed and decided in those meetings? It's time to publish the meeting minutes in full. We have the right to know.
We will continue to work with stakeholders toward that end.
To continue to allow stakeholders to make devastating choices for our kids while remaining hidden by your redactions is to remove trust in the education system. Trust that you will never get back.